Welcome to the video tutorial for assignment 3.1 GIS Skills in Action. I first wanted to start this tutorial by showing you guys an example of the final product. So you can see here that I created a map in Layout View in ArcPro, and I added 3 different map views. So I created 3 different maps in ArcPro and then added them all to the same layout page. Then I added a title, I added labels for my data classification types. I also added legends, which I can see now that my legends are messed up and I need to go back and fix that. And I also added a couple sentences just about the map and then about which of the data classification types that I thought was the best. And then I added some information about where the data came from, and then just a quick map credit, my name and the date that I made the map. So your final product should look something like this, and the rest of this video is going to walk you guys through how to create these awesome Choropleth maps. I am going to show you guys an issue that I've been having when using SQL queries on this 311 service request dataset, and you guys need to pay attention when you're doing this assignment because you might have this problem as well. And there's like one specific solution to it. So first, to show you the problem, I'm going to open the attribute table of my 311 service request layer. I've already performed a query on this, and I'm going to show that to you guys. You can see here that I've performed a query trying to return all of the issue types that equal streetlights. And it's scanning all of these rows and showing me all of the unique domain values within it. So I have that selection applied. And now when I go down to the attribute table and I go and I click this button down here to show selected records, I'm going to scroll over to issue type. And I've already sorted this, but so this should only show streetlights, but it is selecting for things that do not equal streetlights, and I truly have no idea why it's doing that. If I scroll down enough, we'll get to the streetlight section, but you can see there's probably about 1,000 records that are incorrect in here. Okay, so now I've finally gotten to the streetlights section. So in order to check if you're getting the same problem on this while performing select by attribute queries, you can right click on the column or the field and you need to sort it. And if you're getting any returns in this field that are not what you selected for, you know that you're having the same problem. What I imagine is happening is that this shapefile is really big. There's, as you can see, over 700,000 records in it, and so the shapefile is just not doing a very good job at managing its data. I'm not really sure what the problem is, but I know what the solution is. So what you are going to need to do is to export this shapefile into a file geodatabase, and once you do that, it should perform its queries correctly. So I'm going to unselect, as you see I just did, I unselected all of the selected records. And now I'm going to go over here to my catalog. I created a folder in my week 3 file structure, and I named it 3.1_data. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to click New File Geodatabase, and I'm going to call this Service Requests. Now I'm going to export this shapefile, this service request shapefile, as a feature class into the file geodatabase. And there's a couple ways I can do that. I think the easiest is just to go to that shapefile in my catalog pane. I'm going to go to Export, Feature Class to Feature Class, and this should let me save it in that file geodatabase that I just created. Okay, so as you can see, I had to click all the way into the file geodatabase in this output feature class and then type in a name in order for it to allow me to save it. That geoprocessing tool has finished running, and now I can look and see in my geodatabase that I created that I have that layer here. If it's not showing up after the tool has run successfully, you might need to right click on the geodatabase and click refresh, and that will refresh any of the contents that are in that file geodatabase. So now I'm going to delete the shapefile, which I had called 311 service requests. Where is my remove? Up here. Okay. And now I'm going to perform the same query on this new feature class. So select by attributes, issue type is equal to streetlights. So I'm going to sort descending and then sort ascending. And yeah, it looks like everything is good, but since it was being weird earlier, I'm just going to kind of scroll through, double check. Yeah, so that solved our problem. So that's what you need to do when you are deciding what service request you want to use for your maps. When you're using SQL to kind of learn about these service request types or issue types, you need to pay attention and make sure that it is not selecting records that actually don't meet that criteria. And if it is, you need to go through that process of exporting that shapefile into a file geodatabase, and that will solve your problem. Next, I'm going to show you guys step 2 in the creating a Choropleth map process. I want to remind you guys that you should not use the streetlights as your issue type. I want to make sure that everyone's going through the next few steps and like actually doing the steps of using select by location and select by attributes. And so if you use the same issue type that I show in this video, you might not end up going through those steps. Okay, so once you've figured out what issue type and issue subtype you want to map, you are going to export that as a separate feature class. And the reason you're going to do that is because it will make it easier to perform the select by location step on this data set, and it will help to reduce the potential for errors, as well as this is just a really large data set and it could cause problems as we saw earlier. So you are going to use select by attributes to select for your issue type, and then if you would like to do a issue subtype, you can always add a clause and add the issue subtype in there. I'm not going to do that because there aren't many subtypes for streetlights. So I clicked apply, we've got that same number of records showing up. So what I'm going to do now is in the contents pane, right click on that layer and then scroll down to data and go to export features. And we want it to say that this input has a selection because the goal is to export only the selected records into a new feature class. So that is what you want to see. Now I'm going to navigate to that file geodatabase that I created. So we're going to click into it, and then I'm going to call this streetlights and click OK. And it ran and it added that streetlight layer to my map. So I'm going to delete the service request layer because I'm not going to use that anymore. Oops, did not mean to do that. Undo group, remove. And now I'm just going to double check that I exported the correct data. So I'm going to go to the streetlights layer that I just created. I'm going to scroll over to issue type and just sort of scroll through, make sure everything kind of looks as it should. I'm also going to sort again just to triple check. All right, so it looks good. So that was step 2 in this process. Now we are going to add a new field to our city ward layer, and we are going to use select by location and select by attributes to get a number of records for each ward and input that into our new field. So let me maybe try to explain that a little better. So right now we cannot create a Choropleth map using either of these two layers that we have. So we have our city ward layer, which is providing our boundaries, and the Choropleth map, as I showed you guys earlier, is going to have different colors for each of these wards. But right now, if we open our city ward attribute table, we can see that there's no fields in here that we can create a Choropleth map over. We technically could symbolize maybe the district number, but it would just like be kind of meaningless. We're going to use that district number to label later on. So what we need to do is add a new field to this that is going to be the values of your service request. So the new field that I'm going to add is going to be streetlights, and then I'm going to use select by location and select by attributes to figure out the number of streetlight requests that are in each of the 7 wards. So first let's add a new field. So you need to have your attribute table opened up, and then you're going to go over here and click on these 3 stacked lines and then click on Fields View. And now we are going to click down here to add a new field, and I'm just going to call it lights. Oops. Short integer. I'm going to change the number format to numeric. Okay, and then in this, when you open the field view, it's going to also change what is selected up here in the navigation ribbon. And if it doesn't, you need to try and find the Fields tab, and then that's where you can click Save. Although also, if you've made a change here and then you exit out, it will prompt you to save that change. Steps 4 and 5 are potentially going to be a bit confusing for you guys, but I will try to explain it the best I can. So the first step is to use select by attributes to select for only one of the wards. So I'm going to go to district is equal to 1, apply that. We can see that we have that selection. So now I'm going to close out of the select by attributes dialog box. Now I'm going to turn streetlights on and open up that attribute table as well. So now we can see in our map view that we have Ward 1 selected over here. And next we are going to use the select by location tool to return only those records that are located within the outline boundaries of Ward 1. So our input feature is going to be, let me double check. So this is going to be our 311 service call layer. So mine is named streetlights. The relationship is going to be intersect, but you guys can play around with this and look at all of the different types of relationships that are here. Some of the others might work as well, or they might return slightly different values. Like within, we'll probably not return any values that are right on the boundary. I just clicked way too many times. Okay, so your input features are going to be your service call layer. We're going to have our relationship as intersect, and then our selecting features are going to be the city ward, and it should tell you that this input has a selection. You want it to say that. And then we're going to click OK. And now we can see that it has reduced the number of records, or it's reduced the number of records selected in this streetlight or service request layer. So we have 3,784. We can also zoom in and kind of look at these boundaries where there's some that are right on the line, And I'm just gonna play around with this relationship to see if the number changes. If I change it to within, so right now we're 3,784. It gives me the same value for within. So I think that is the relationship that I'm going to stick with, is the intersect one. Okay, so now I'm going to take this number and input it into our city ward layer. So 3,784. And you can see that I added that to the record that was selected, which was District 1. I'm going to show you guys one more time how to do this for the next ward. So I'm going to clear my selections, and that cleared the selection on both of the layers. I'm going to use select by attributes to, oh, it's telling me there are pending edits in my layer here, so maybe I should go to edit and click save. Okay, now I'm going to use select by attributes to select for Ward 2. So we see we have Ward 2 selected now. Then I'm going to use select by location. Streetlights is still our input feature. Relationship is still intersect, and this should now have changed the record that's selected to Ward number 2. And we can see in our map view that it's selected all of the records in that ward, and we can also see it in our attribute table. So now I'm going to add this number to that new field in our city ward data set. So 1,287. So you guys are going to do that for all of these city wards, and then you will move on to the next step in this process. So I have finished adding those values to the lights field in my attribute table. You can see that they are all filled in. I have also labeled my city ward layer. And now for this map, we are only going to be using this city ward layer. So you can turn off and or remove your streetlight layer. One more thing just before I show you guys the Choropleth Symbology is I wanted to show you guys the base map that I used. So I used the light gray canvas. And then I did not want these reference things poking through. So I just went ahead and turned off the light gray reference. And you can see then the only words that are on here are from my labels on the ward layer. Okay, so now we are going to symbolize this city ward layer as a Choropleth map. So we're going to right click on it and go to Symbology. This will pull up our Symbology pane. And we are going to change it from single symbol to graduated colors. And then what you guys are going to do is change the method. So you're going to, as I showed you at the beginning of this video, make a map layout that shows 3 different types of data classification methods. And you can choose out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can choose whichever 3 you want. I would recommend maybe sticking to these top 4. So it is really as simple as that to change the classification or to change the Choropleth map symbology. You can also change your color schemes down here. I would recommend that you use the same color scheme for all 3 of your maps so that it is easier to tell the differences between the 3 different data classification methods. So you've symbolized this map and this layer, and you probably want to play around with how it is labeling. Oh yeah, I was like, what is the problem here? What are these numbers that we're getting? So right now it has this choropleth maps symbolized using the district, and it's converting them to some weird decimal numbers. So we need to change the field up here in the symbology. We're going to use lights. So that is much better. And you can change the labels in here. We don't need all those zeros. I'm not going to do that for every one of them since I've already done all of this. So now I'm going to show you guys step 9 or step 8 and 9, which is renaming this map view and creating 2 new map views. So you're going to go to your catalog pane. And the reason why you need to create 2 more map views is because in your map layout, when you create your layout, which is going to be your final product, you're going to add 3 different map views to that layout to show the different data classification methods. So to create new map views, we are going to open our catalog pane, and we are going to open up the map folder. And first I want to rename this, but let me check my symbology is equal interval. So I'm going to rename this map as equal interval. And now I'm going to simply copy and paste this in the catalog pane, and that is going to give me multiple map views of the same data set. So that means I don't have to go in and add this single layer again and change the base map and change the symbology. So in your catalog pane, you right click, you click copy, and then you right click on maps and you click paste, and right click again and click paste. And there you go. So you have your 3 different map views. Now what you're going to do is, I know I'm going to use equal interval, quantile, and natural breaks. So I'm going to rename these other 2. Oops. I don't know what this transformation warning is. Okay, so now you can see in my catalog pane, I have my 3 different map views, and in order to actually now edit the symbology of these, I need to open them up. So you right click on it and click open. And you can see this is not actually symbolized with quantile symbology yet. So I'm going to right click on this layer and this new map view and change the symbology to quantile, and I'm going to change it to 4. And then once again, I recommend that you guys change the labels of these categories so that when you create your layout view, the numbers don't take up so much space and are not so hard to read. So that is how you create your multiple map views. I'm going to add the 3rd one in here just by right clicking on it and clicking open. And next I'm going to show you how to add your layout view. So you're going to go to Insert, New Layout, and I'm going to do a landscaped letter size. So I've got my layout view here, and now we are going to add 3 different map frames, 1 for each of our 3 maps. And you can see that it is showing the 3 different map options that we have here, which I think is great. And you can choose between either default extent or the extent it's set at. What I would recommend is maybe getting all of them, well, having them all set at the same extent down here. So you can just type in here to change the number of their, of the scale, and you want to have them all have the same scale. So I am going to choose this scale option over here, and then I'm just going to draw my square. And as you can see, that map scale, it's too zoomed in right now to fit everything, so I'm going to have to edit that later. But I'm going to go ahead and, so I've added that one map frame, which is my equal interval. So I'm going to go ahead and add a text box and then type equal interval. I do not want dynamic text, I just want a normal text box. I'm not going to go through all the steps of showing you guys how to make your map look nice. That's kind of up to you to decide. Make sure that you reference the rubric to see all of the items that you need to have in your layout view. There are a few other things that I'm going to show you guys, like how to make sure that your legend is included, as well as how to get rid of this label that's down here at the bottom of your, what are these called? Of your map view or map pane. So again, just one more thing before I get into those more particulars is to add another map frame. You're going to go to your Insert tab, click on Map Frame, and select the next one. And you want to make sure that you're labeling these correctly. So I'm just going to maybe copy. What I tend to do is set up the formatting that I want in the first one, and then I'll copy and paste and then just change the text. So that one was natural breaks. Great, and next I am going to show you guys a few more particulars about messing around in the layout view. I'm going to use my final map layout that I created to show you guys some things about some of the little nuances of using the layout view. The first thing I want to show you is how to remove, let me delete it first. So you can see right now that I have these credits that are located here at the bottom of each map pane, and they are conflicting with the location where I wanted to put my legend. So to get rid of those, what you have to do is go up to the Layout tab, and then I think our map frame, and we are going to open up the dynamic text option. And this dynamic text is called service layer credits, so we're going to go find that. So that's here, and I'm going to click on it, and then click somewhere in the map view, and you see now it has pulled out those service layer credits from the map pane or map view area and added them all into this individual text box. And now if you delete the text box, it's going to go right back into your map view. So instead of deleting the text box, what you should do is just drag it off the page, and then when you export your map as a PDF or a JPEG, that will not be included. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you guys. The second is how to get your scale to be the exact same for each of these three map views. And you simply just need to make sure that you have the Select tool in the Layout tab selected, and then you're going to click on that map view, and this is going to change the scale for that map. So you can see I just changed it to 1 to 100,000. I can change it back to about 1 to 300,000, and it will go back. And it's just the same for all three. So you just have to then click on each of these three and go down here to change the map scale. It's easier to change the scale and make them equal to one another when you're in the layout view than it is to go here into the map pane and try to change it here, because like you can see, it doesn't necessarily represent what it's going to look like in the layout. Okay, the last nuance of the layout view that I wanted to show you guys is has to do with the legends. So as you can see, I inserted a legend that is unique for each of these maps. In order to do this, you need to kind of click on the map, go to map frame, maybe not, go to layout. Nope. Last try. Okay, you go to insert and you click on legend. I usually just choose this first one, but you can play around with these different options. So now you're going to draw in the legend, and where you draw it, like over which of these map views you draw it, will indicate which legend it's going to pull. So I'm going to draw that legend, and we can see that is the correct legend for this equal interval map. Now, this legend doesn't quite look like the one that I already have down there. What I did to get rid of legend was I double clicked on the legend and it pulls up this element pane, and I went down here and I'm pretty sure unselected the show legend so that it gets rid of that. Another thing is though, when you guys add your legend in between the part that says legend and then whatever your okay, let me try to explain this differently. So when you first create your legend, it's going to have most likely 3 different labels. It's going to say legend. I just showed you how to get rid of that. Then it's going to say the name of the layer that it's pulling from. And then lastly, it's going to say the name of the field that this data is coming from. So the field that it is showing is called lights. And the way that you can change these names are by going back to that map pane. So this is my equal interval map. So I'm going to go back to my equal interval map. And you can see I just completely deleted the name out of here. So this was city wards. And when we go back to the layout, you can see that city wards is in there. So once again, to get rid of legend, I'm going to uncheck that. Now I want to get rid of city wards. So I'm going to go in here and just delete the name so that it will have a blank name. And then lastly, if you don't like the name of your field that you have here, I'm pretty sure you can change it, but actually maybe not. So I would pay attention to what you name that field so that it's something that makes sense for you. There might be a way to change that label in this element pane, but I have not messed around with that a ton. So it looks like you can just completely get rid of headings, group layer name, lots of different changes that you can make. Sometimes a legend can be the most finicky part of creating a map view. The last thing about making these legends look nice is that you want to have your numbers, you want to change them so that they look nice. And the way that you do that is when you are in your symbology pane on each map, under the graduated color symbology type, under label is where you will change the values. So like these they had like 5 zeros at the end of them, and you know, that takes up space and is distracting. So I edited for each of my 3 maps, I edited these labels down here to make them make more sense and be more visually appealing. There's one last thing that I need to show you guys that I noticed earlier, which is that when I exported my map, the legend exported incorrectly. So right now you guys are seeing the PDF of the improper or the bad legend. So you can see here it says layer, and then it's only showing 3 of the 5 classes. Here's an example of the proper map. So the legend says lights and shows all 5 classes for each of these map types. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to fix this problem. I had to do some Googling in order to figure it out, but I was able to find one forum post that talked about it. So to solve this problem, when you're in Arc Pro in your layout view, you need to double click on the legend, not the map frame. Why is it not? Oh, I think because I locked it. Okay, so I did something earlier that accidentally locked the legend to these 2 map views, but it's fine because they look how I want them to.
So I'll show you on this bottom one. So you'll double click on your legend and it's going to pull up this element pane. What you need to do is go to, so this is where I locked it. I clicked lock. Now I don't know how to change that on these other two. Anyway, so you go to under legend items, show properties, and you unselect this that says layer name. It will most likely be selected and you want to unselect it so that it does not show that layer name anymore. And now when you go to share and export your layout, it will not make the legend look incorrect. Okay, well with that is everything that I wanted to show you guys, and I hope you have fun making these Choropleth maps.